people of YouTube, my name is Steve Gray and thanks for watching. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, leave a like, comment down below, and whatever else you gotta do. So today we are going to be talking about the second to last episode of Game of Thrones, Season 8, Episode 5. And let me say my predictions from last episode pretty much came true, or close to it. Daenerys is basically becoming the Mad King, or in this case, the Mad Queen. She is following her father's footsteps, and basically, she burned the shit out of King's Landing. No pun intended, but yeah, a lot of people are dead. A lot of innocent civilians are dead, and it's not cool. I did not think that was going to happen, which I guess was kind of a good surprise in retrospect. But she did what she said she was going to do. She was going to earn her membership as the Queen in Fire and Blood, and she definitely had plenty of fire and plenty of blood. But kind of bouncing off episode 4, what I think is really ridiculous. So the one dragon, I believe it was Virizion, or Rhaegal. I think it was Rhaegal. Yeah, definitely Rhaegal was the one that just recently got shot down. Drogon doesn't seem to have any issues dodging all those crazy spears. In the last episode and this episode, she predicts it this time. Their loading time is like 10 times slower, and she literally just takes out the entire freaking Iron Fleet in like half a second with this dragon. And that's pretty much it. Iron Fleet is done, and then she basically burns the city. And she blows up the main gate into King's Landing. And Cersei, being as stubborn as she is, just decides to go down with a ship. All puns intended there. Euron is dead. Cersei is dead. Jaime is dead. Hound is dead. The Mountain's dead. And those are pretty much all the main characters that are dead at this point. Nobody else really died in the episode. But Cersei's death pissed me off very much so. As sadistical as it sounds, I kind of wanted her to suffer like Ramsay did. She was a terrible human being and deserved to suffer. In retrospect for what Jaime's past actions did, he kind of deserved to suffer. Then he redeemed himself, and then he became an asshole again. So he could have suffered too. And all that really happened to them is they got crushed together, which was probably pretty painless. In all honesty, if the piece of rubble was big enough, it would have been like a splat type situation, and that would have been the end of that. The coolest part of this episode, Mountain versus the Hound. We actually get to see what the Mountain looks like. I think it's been either 2 or 3 seasons at this point since the Viper poisoned him and he became Zombie Mountain, and we get to see his face, and he actually disobeys Cersei, kills her hand, and hand of the king, hand of the queen actually in this case, and then him and the Hound have the match that everyone's been waiting for pretty much 8 seasons. And I don't really know if the Mountain's dead, I'll be honest. The reason I say that is because the Hound was doing a pretty good number on him. He is definitely quicker. The Mountain obviously has more brute force than the Hound does, but he's going at it, attacking him. He stabs him through the freaking stomach with this ridiculously huge sword, and he pulls it out and then starts beating friggin' Clegane with it. And then the Mountain has him up. He's about to crush his skull in like the Viper, pressing down on his eyes. And then he frigging pulls out a knife, pulls an Arya with the Night King, stabs him through the head. And you know what? He's alive. And I'm sitting here like, is this dude like a freaking White Walker? How the hell is this even possible? You get stabbed through your freaking eye and you don't die. A freaking giant, a literal giant in the past couple episodes got stabbed in the eye by a little girl and went down. And you're telling me that the Hound can't stab somebody through the skull and it doesn't kill him? But I think the Hound finally conquered his fear of fire in this particular one because there was a lot of fire going on, and then he pushed the Mountain out of a building, and we are to assume they are both dead. But for all we know, somehow the Mountain survived that, and the Hound survived some pretty tough shit himself. So we'll see what happens with that situation there. Arya is kind of a little bitch in this episode, I'll be bluntly honest about it. She's not really doing any fighting. She plans on killing Cersei, which I think she could have easily killed Cersei, and then had a hero's death, which I think would have been a better role to go with her than where they're probably going to go with her. My guess is now that Cersei is dead, and the Hound is dead, and pretty much everyone on her list, I think, at this point that she wanted to kill is already dead. She may or may not go back to Gendry and possibly marry Gendry. So we'll see if she gets a happily ever after. Personally, I would have rather kill the queen, and then had maybe the Mountain kill her or something like that, where she sneaks up on the queen, kills Cersei, and then the Mountain's like, oh my god, she just killed my queen, and then off with her head or something like that, hero's death, which I think we all could have wanted for Arya out of respect for her character. So another thing that kind of pisses me off in this episode is that in the beginning of it, Tyrion basically freed Jaime, and he was like, listen, I don't want these people to die. There's innocent people, women, children, etc. We don't want them to die. Can you go tell Cersei, if I free you, that if she rings the bell, we'll understand that it means surrender, and that we will stop fighting, stop killing, etc. Cersei actually does not ring the bell in the episode, I don't believe. I think it's either Jaime or one of her men, possibly her Meister. I'm not really sure. Hand of the Queen. I'm honestly not sure who rings the bell, but I know it's not Cersei because Cersei wants to go down with her ship the entire episode. But regardless, the bell rings. Dany watches it for a few minutes and then decides, well, you know what? Too bad. Fire and blood. You had your time to surrender before. You killed my translator, Missandre, if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. You killed a bunch of other men. You didn't help me out at the wall. I'm burning the shit out of your people. And that's exactly what she does. She takes all of her rage, anger, and aggression, possibly even some of that towards Jon Snow for telling Sansa, because Sansa told Tyrion with the fact that she knows that Tyrion has kind of a big mouth and was going to tell Varys, and that was going to spread, etc. But I don't think the people are going to end up accepting Daenerys as their queen because she was like freer of tyrants, but by the looks of it, she herself has become the Mad Queen, the Mad King. She is kind of a tyrant at this point in time. Most likely, Arya or somebody else is going to end up killing her in the next episode. Jon's going to become the king, blah, 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 happily ever after. But Varys, let's talk about Varys, because this is probably where it's going to end up biting Dany in the ass in the last episode. Varys already told one of his little birdies, or a child, of the news. He did write a note, but the child did not deliver the note. That doesn't mean the child doesn't have the message memorized already from Varys. Varys died. We learned that he was going to betray the queen because he learned that Jon has a better claim to the throne than she does, and he thinks that he would be a better king than she would be a queen. So Varys got burned alive. He wasn't really that important of a character, honestly. I mean, maybe a little bit to a certain extent, but I feel like a lot of people don't really care about him as a character too much, minus the eunuch jokes. But we'll wait and see what happens with his little birdies. Because 9 out of 10, what's going to happen is because Jon was courageous and he saved a couple people in the process of the battle while Dany was burning them alive. That news is going to spread. People are going to be like, oh, Jon's a good guy. We want him as king, blah, 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 blah. And as I said, one of two things is going to happen. Dany is either going to die and Jon's going to become the king, or it'll be nice to see a happy ending for both of them, because we've seen these two characters so long, where they both get married and they both rule together, where Jon basically gives Dany that level-headedness that she needs at this point in time. But at this point, Dany is so pissed off at Jon That I don't know. We'll wait and see what happened. I'm not sure how Jon feels about the whole incest thing. He may be slightly grossed out about it at this point in time after he learned what happened. And in retrospect, he did already have sex with her. That doesn't mean he wants to have sex with her again after learning that she is his aunt. Dany doesn't seem to care because there's a history of it in her family anyway. But honestly, we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen there. So we will just have to wait and see and watch for next episode. Give me your thoughts down below. If you got any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free. If you want me to do another video of something related to Game of Thrones before the next episode comes out, feel free to comment down below as well. My name is Steve Gray. Thank you for watching, and as always, have a good one.